Hello, beautiful people, and welcome to Just Bloom. I am your host, Kiki Orr, and I am joined here today with my beautiful guest, Deneia. Yes, we go on first name basis only because that's how we do.
Yes.
So welcome, Deneia. Say hey to the people,
Thank
Deneia.
you. Hey, everybody. Thanks, Kiki, for having me on.
Yes, of course. On this episode of Just Bloom, we're going to talk about dating. As you know, Deneia is one of my castmates on the new dating reality show, My Mom, Your Dad, on HBO Max. So we're going to talk dating. We're going to talk why come on a dating reality show. We're talking the Deneia Affect. And is Miles really a hater or a lover and supporter of his mom? All things Deneia today. So we're going to get started. Deneia, you look beautiful as always.
Thank you.
Yes. So as I mentioned, Deneia is one of my cast members from My Mom, Your Dad. And it's so funny because I have to take a pause when saying it. I keep saying it the flip side the other way. I talked about this on my podcast with Destiny. I keep saying your mom because it's like I'm the mom. So to say whatever. Anyway.
Right. I get it.
Right? It's like your mom because, yeah, whatever. So I want to start there, Deneia. Why reality dating show to find love? Let's just get right on up into it.
Well, you know what? Honestly, I don't even really do anything, right? Other than go out to eat with my girlfriends. And, girls always go out to eat together, but you rarely see like a group of guys. So I'm not a clubber. And so, most people meet men at the club. I don't see any men at the grocery store. A few men at the church, but because I go to church every Sunday. So it was something different. Yeah. And I was like, why not? When the opportunity came, I'm like, well, should I, shouldn't I? Why not? It would be an opportunity to meet different men from different areas. Baltimore is very small. You know what they say? What do they say? 6 degrees of separation, 6 degrees of separation. Every time you talk to somebody or is a friend of somebody, they know somebody that talked to him. And I'm like, oh my God, can I get out of Baltimore?
So you wanted to be able to spread your horizons, if you will, give yourself more options, if you will. Right?
Yes, absolutely.
And I'm glad you mentioned 2 things. So now we know that you're from Baltimore. Is that where you're born and raised, or where are you from originally?
No, Cleveland is the city that I come from. So run. Both Thugs and Harmony. So I was born and raised in Cleveland, Ohio. I moved here. My daughter is 23. So I moved here about 22 years. Well, she's 22. She'll be 23 in May, but I moved here about 22 years ago. She was 6 months when we moved here. And I've been here ever since.
So we know that so you have a daughter and a son. So everyone has had the pleasure of meeting. Well, not really meeting, because I'm going to say you don't really know MJ, right? You know from what you see or saw on the show, but you have two daughters, a daughter and a son. Yes, Madison and MJ, right? Yes. Yeah. So Deneia is a mom of 2. How long had you been on the dating circuit, if you will? I don't even know what to call it, but how long had it been that you've been seeking love?
Well, it's been a while. I've been separated I was married we were together for 14 years, married for 10, but I've been separated for about 14 years. And so I've had small relationships off and on since then, but never really from that point connected with anybody that seemed serious enough or, how can I say, ready. They didn't seem like they were ready to love. I was ready, all in, but they didn't seem like they were. And so I've been single for 12 years because I haven't been in a super committed relationship since my divorce.
That's interesting because it feels like for a majority of us that on the show that was the case. It seems like we've gone like really long stretches without being in a really committed relationship. I, like you, the same thing. Was married and then it's been about the same amount of years, like of not having a committed relationship. So for all of those women that are out there, you're not alone dating. And, people say, well, New York City, you have a plethora of men, but you're in the DMV area, you're having challenges as well.
It's the same thing.
Challenging. I don't know if it's more challenging as you get to a certain age or if I don't know what it is, but it's hard out here for a sister, right? It's hard out here for a sister. So
it is.
And so prior to that, you said you weren't finding anybody. So you even said not even in the church. And so the show presented itself as an opportunity. So now we get to the show, you're on the show. There's a lot of things that people did not get to know, right? And I think that was, I'm going to say, slightly missed opportunity, but here we are now. So people get to know a little bit more about who Deneia is. Why don't you just tell the beautiful people of Just Bloom who you are? What are the things that bring you joy? What are the things that excite you? Things of that nature.
Okay, well, like we said earlier, I'm from Cleveland, Ohio, now living in Baltimore, Maryland. 2 beautiful kids. Madison is my eldest. Miles is my baby boy. But I am a full-time network marketer for a health and wellness company. I've been in this health and wellness industry for about 5 years, maybe a little bit longer now. And I started doing that because I was over the 9 to 5, over people telling me what to do, because I just really can't take that. But I also wanted to help people get healthy. Along with that, I was introduced to network marketing as I was going through my divorce, but I didn't take it serious then, because you hear all these bad things about network marketing. It's a Ponzi scheme. It's a pyramid scheme. It's this, it's that. But what network marketing did for me was help a single mother who was newly divorced, didn't have a degree, had been a stay-at-home mom, so didn't have much work experience, helped me bring in an income outside of the child support and alimony that I was receiving, that I needed. And in that, I wanted to help other women who had gone through divorces like me not be in the same situation that I was in. Because it was hard. You know what I mean? Like, you get divorced and now you realize I focused my whole life on my kids and my ex-husband, and I never thought about me. And now I'm in this situation where he is no longer here. I got to take care of these kids, and how am I going to do it? And I don't have a degree. I don't have any, we got married right out of college. So I don't have any work experience. And so it was like a whole new life. I did not know life outside of being a married mother, stay-at-home mom. So now I'm this single, divorced mom trying to figure out life. And it was like me and my kids kind of was figuring out. I was figuring out myself, because I didn't know who I was either outside of the marriage. So it was so many things that I was trying to figure out once my divorce hit. Does that make sense?
Not only does it make sense, but it is something that definitely resonates a lot. One of the reasons that I also started Just Bloom, the podcast, was to remind people that it's never too late to have the life that you want. But because there was a connection for me, so much about my identity, who I was wrapped up so much. And for me, then it was my job. For me, it was being mom. And so after the children get a certain age and my job wasn't there and the income wasn't there anymore because I lost it, the question, much like you, is like, who am I in the absence of these things, right? So for you, it's like, who am I now that I am divorced? What is it that Deneia wants? What is the life? And also for you, it sounded like it was also a method of survival, right? Like, I have to take care of my babies and my children. And how do I do that? And so, yes, it does make sense. And so I do want to now touch on, because didn't know that we get this deep quick, but it's cool, right? Because I want to talk about a little bit about how, if you will, had the experience of, one, not having a degree, working to be able to take care of your children. How had that kind of impacted you as it relates to relationships that you were having? How did you see yourself in terms of your value and your worth, and when you're trying to relate to another, and being in a new relationship? And did that have any effect or bearing on future relationships?
Oh, absolutely. Well, first of all, I didn't initially trust. So I had to get past that barrier first. And then once I felt like I could trust again to even try a relationship, then that's where am I worthy enough to be in a relationship? Well, what is this person going to think about me? Or are they going to wonder why? Because my ex-husband is like I guess a semi-celebrity. I don't even know what you want to call him. So I'm like, are they going to wonder why we got divorced? Or everybody's going to think, well, he divorced her, or, all these things are going through my head. And so it was a whole process to start dating. But definitely didn't feel like I was worthy enough, or, I don't know what the word is, but I didn't feel like, that I was worthy to, I didn't have self-worth at that moment. Just because, like we said, my identity lied with being his wife and being their mother. And kind of right before the show, it kind of started all over. Not necessarily being his ex-wife, but my kids. My daughter is, away, and then Miles went off to school. So it's like, okay. So I spent my whole life, taking care of Madison and Miles and going to every game. And I was that mom. I mean, there was not an event, there was not a play, there was not a production, there was not a game. There was nothing that I missed. I was always there, even with my 9 to 5. After my 9 to 5, I was always at every event. So when Miles went off, he went to a boarding school first, for a couple reasons. We can get into that later, maybe. And then now he's off at college. It's like, okay, again, who is Deneia outside of Madison and Miles? So then all of that starts all over again. So it's like I'm relearning myself at every stage of my life, and it affects dating too. It might seem weird, but it does.
No, I can understand it, and I'm sure that many women out there who have children can definitely identify, who have been divorced, whether you're divorced or not, or been in a relationship and have children, can understand that like life isn't linear, and we go through these various different stages, right? So there's the post-divorce, and then it's when the children go off to college, and so for those who are out there kind of in the social media world, and they're like talking about MJ and all of this stuff and like thinking like he's home and so he's going to be a blocker. The fact of the matter is that Deneia is an empty nester. So any decisions that she gets to make is ultimately her own. MJ was there to be supportive and loving, and we can talk more about that in a minute. But I do want to go back to when you talk about your self-worth or not thinking that you were enough. When did that begin to shift for you? When did you begin to see your value and begin to see that you were enough, so that you can then begin to make different choices as it relates to dating going forward?
I can't put a time frame on it, but I can tell you what I did.
Okay, let's hear that.
So, I started to do daily affirmations, and people think that is very cliche, but when you are struggling with like low self-esteem or struggling with self-worth and things of that nature, you have to do something to make yourself believe something else. You know how people say fake it until you make it. And so that's what I did. Every morning I would say my prayers, I would meditate, and I would do daily affirmations. I am beautiful. I am worthy. I would look something up. And so it's like a part of my daily ritual now. And I really kept doing it until I believed it. And you just start, I looked in the mirror. I used to be afraid to even look in the mirror, like look straight in the mirror, look myself in the eye and say, Deneia, you are beautiful. You know what I mean? And so the more I did it, really, the more I began to believe it. And the more I began to take steps out of, like I used to be so fearful of so many things, and I started to just take one step and, into doing something I would never do before. And so it was just me like really wanting a different life for myself, really wanting to believe that I was worthy to get out of that. And it's so funny. And one thing that really helped, and I laugh about this, when, I still talk to my ex-husband's mom, and it probably was a couple years that had passed after the divorce. And I had called her, and I was still like crying about it, moping about it. And she was a product of divorce. My ex-husband and his dad, his mom and dad were divorced. And she had said, and she's such a sweet lady, but she had got very stern, and she said, Deneia, I need you to just get over it. She's like, you need to get over the divorce. And I'm thinking like, we had several conversations about her going through her divorce, the tears that she shed. And I'm like, because she's the only person that I knew that had been divorced. All of my friends are either single or married. My aunts and uncles were all married, and nobody was divorced. So I didn't know, I didn't know anybody in that moment who had ever been through a divorce, right? And, so I always reached out to her and talked to her, knowing that that's my ex-husband's mom, and she could kind of be biased because that is her son, but always pretty much gave me good advice. And when she gave me that, my heart was hurting. Like, what do you mean just get over it? You experienced it. You know what this feels like. And I always say it was the worst advice and the best advice that I ever received. It was the worst advice because I was not ready to receive it when she gave it to me, but it was the best advice because when I did what she said and just moved on and got over it, my life shifted in a major way. And so that was another push of me not moping and being sad and why me and why did this happen to me and why am I the one to get divorced and why am I struggling? Once I started to move past that, things started to change about how I felt about myself, how I felt about life, and things like that.
That's beautiful. Yeah, it's sometimes hard for us to hear certain things, but it's necessary for us to hear certain things, right?
Oh yeah.
So one of the things too that you said, you mentioned that you still in relationship or communicate with your, I think you alluded to your ex-husband, and if you didn't say that, then I'm inserting that because I know that to be the case, which is, I think, which is great. But the thing that I know, what I do know is that, and I hate to bring this in only because, here's what I hate to bring in. I hate to bring this in only because, like, I like to leave, like, sometimes the past in the past. And I know people are saying, well, why Kiki didn't answer the question about, when Philip asked me. Well, this is what I mean when I say the past in the past, as it relates to you being like this shy person, because that's not what we saw on television, right? We didn't see this person who seemed to be shy. You look quite comfortable on the screen. Yeah. And the reason I'm bringing that forward is because I think it's important for people to really get what people have experienced and have gone through and how they're able to move forward. And I think that's the reason I like to reference the past sometimes, is just to show that that there were steps to get you to being right in front of the camera and all of the ways in which you got to be there and the comfortability and how you pushed yourself. Speaking about pushing yourself from divorce, but you also have to push yourself in terms of your own personal development. So talk a little bit about that, because I think you know what I'm referencing in terms of like you want.
Oh, right. So because I am, even though it didn't show, what is it called? Cutting, editing is amazing. But I was around an amazing group of people, first of all, that made me feel comfortable. So I wasn't, after a while, as nervous as I thought that I would be, because the people that I was around, you all were so great. And I felt like I was at home, and I felt like we had all been friends like for years. But I am a natural introvert. I am what I always say, I'm a situational extrovert. Like if you put me in front of a crowd and I have to talk or I have to present, I will, because it's that situation. I will do it. I'm going to show up. I might be shaking. My voice might be shaking. I might sound like I'm about to cry, but I'm going to do it. And so because of so many things that I have been through in my life, I'm a natural introvert anyway, but there were certain things that I had been through, like in high school, certain things said about me, not going to college and just finding a job and working my way up. And there's so many things that kind of attacked my inner core that made me more of an introvert and didn't feel like I was worthy of speaking or didn't feel like I was smart enough. And because I call my ex-husband like a walking encyclopedia, Wikipedia, or whatever, that also made me kind of be more inward, because I didn't want to appear to look a certain way because I was married to him. But he has been very helpful in this process. And we had a conversation just about me doing the show. And, the kids had talked to him about nominating me for the show. And everyone thought it was a good idea, and they nominated me without my permission. And when, one of the casting agents reached out, I was so nervous. And when I responded and said that I would do the show, and I told the kids or whatever, my ex-husband was like, that was step one. He said, the Deneia that I knew would have never even responded to this person reaching out to do something like this. And so, a long story short, this process has been huge for me, like Kiki said, because I had to take so many different steps to believe in myself to even do it, because I was downplaying myself. I'm like, oh my God, they're going to think I'm this way. They're going to think I'm that way. They're going to portray me to look like this. And it was one point in the hotel where I called Miles, because we all stayed in separate rooms. I called Miles and I was like, Miles, I don't think I can do it. I was literally having like an anxiety attack. And I was like, Miles, I don't think I can do it, because my nerves started to overtake me. And, I ended up, doing it. Miles was like, come on, we got to do it. And he called Madison, and the three of us were on the phone, and they were kind of encouraging me to do it. And I know it probably seems silly because it's a reality show. And like, well, if your nerves are like that, why would you do it anyway? But for me, it was something, because I keep pushing myself beyond my fears. And I have been, I'm
I mean,
about to cry already.
me too.
I
Me
have
too.
been, but I have been, I don't know if encapsulated is the word, but I have been controlled pretty much my whole life by my fears. And, we did a live and I talked about how this was not just for me a second chance at love, but it's a second chance at life, and how I want to do things on my own terms, and not allow fear and not allow my past to get in the way of things that I wanted to do, which is what I did. And is why I feel like, because I'm not where I want to be, but I feel like fear is why I'm where I am right now. And because I did let fear take control of my life. So this process was a big stepping stone for me. And when it was over, my ex-husband had said to me, what Kiki was saying, he had said, Deneia, you going through this process and you doing this, no matter if the show is a flop, no matter if it's ever aired, no matter if nobody sees it, he said, you have already won. He said, they don't know you. They don't know what you've been through. They don't know how hard it was for you to come on to this show. He said, but Deneia, you've already won. It doesn't matter if the show was a hit. It doesn't matter if you found love. Just the fact that you took every step and kept taking the steps to do something that you would have never done before, to do something that you would have been terrified to do, you've won.
Amen. Amen. That is like, and they say you don't know, you may see the glory, but you don't know the story. And that is why I think it's so important for us to be able to use our platform to be able to share with women and just people in general, right? They see the show. It's all great. As you said, Deneia, you look beautiful. You were shown as the light and the beauty and the joy that you are. I think that resonated on the screen, but no one knows the work that came into you being there in that moment. And I think it's important that people know that fear can be something that can bound us in many ways, and that there's steps that we get to take to begin to push ourselves forward. And you said, I did it shaking, I did it, almost crying with my nerves, but the thing is that you did it. And so I just want to say kudos to you for doing it.
Thank
and
you.
I'm so grateful that you pushed yourself forward so that I get to have had another sister with me on the show, and what a blessing it is. So of course, people want to now know about, they're going to be like, okay, well, what about the show, right? What about now they're going to be like, oh, well, let's talk a little bit about Scott and the relationship and moving forward. Now, I got to watch the first 2 episodes because I wasn't in them and I wasn't in the house when you all started. And I can see very early on, like watching the episodes, the comfort that you had with him and the ease that you had with Scott. Tell me what about Scott was different from maybe what you have done or dated historically, right? Because I think that that's important. What the audience don't know, just in general, with any of us, were there any dating patterns that you broke as a result of the show and choosing Scott?
Dating patterns. You know what? I think because of the process, I opened myself up more to the experience and to the process. And so in looking at a mate on the show, I was looking for someone who was doing the same. And Scott was the first person really who opened up about past experiences, about things that he had done. And a lot of men, not all, a lot of men don't always share the things that they have done to women or see their fault in some of the relationships, as well as women. And because he opened up and shared, I think that's where my initial attraction started to come. Also, I've talked about it kind of on the show that I've only dated outside my race once. But I was always in my head in that relationship. It probably could have been a good relationship, but because I was just thinking of so many different things that could go wrong with it, it ended early. And so I was taking a second chance on dating, outside of my race. So that would have been outside of really my norm. What else? I don't know.
So you open,
I don't know.
so what was important for you, it sounds like, was someone who was willing to kind of look at their past, own it, and acknowledge it, and share themselves openly and vulnerably.
Yeah.
And the race thing, and I want to talk more about the race thing because you mentioned it, and then it seemed you brought it up, right? And then like MJ is getting slack for it, and then people are like, I'm like, and people are saying, well, MJ just doesn't want his mom with a white man, and I'm like, I don't know if y'all was watching the same show that I was watching, but I clearly heard MJ actually feel very sorry and sad that you felt as if if you couldn't bring someone home from an outside of race, that you were so consumed by that. He was like, I'm sorry that she feels that way. Like, I want her to know that she can love whoever she wants to love. That's the first thing he said. So I don't know where this narrative of like race is coming in, because that is not true. And the fact that MJ is looking like a hypocrite, people are saying he's being hypocritical, because it does date outside his race. So I'm like, make it make sense, y'all. The math ain't mathing, right? Like, he's not being hypocritical. He said that. But what he did probably allude to, and you can speak to this, what do you think was the trigger for MJ that people have missed? What did they miss in the conversation? So we could like lay it out here and put it to rest.
Yeah, so we're actually going to do a live on Wednesday, my kids and myself. And it was funny because I was talking to, and I will say it again on my live, but I was talking to my ex-husband about it just because he watched it from a viewer standpoint. And so when we talked about it, we said that this was less of a black and white issue, but it was more of a safe versus risky.
Come on now.
So if the people were watching, they would notice that the first thing Miles said, and I also said this, but they didn't show it, that Philip Sr. reminded him of his grandfather, right? So his dad's dad. So that's safe. Somebody that reminds you of your granddaddy, you know what I mean? That is safe. And then, I trug my kids to church every Sunday, right? We were calling him holy water, even though that wasn't the meaning of it. When you think about it, holy water, is church, is safe. So everything about Philip was safe. At that moment, Philip had never shared any, thing about his past. So then when you go over to Scott's end, Scott says, I ended a relationship with, my ex-wife not too long before the show. He said that he cheated before, and it was all these other things that he had said. So that was a risky choice for me. And so Miles had seen me through my pain, had known that I've been cheated on. So why would he push me towards something that I'd already been through?
That's right. That's perfectly said. Did y'all hear that? Are we clear now? Can y'all leave my MJ alone? Because the one thing is for certain and sure is that I believe that the children, I call them children, but the young adults on the show really have some great insight to their parents, right? And really know who their parents are. I mean, obviously they don't know all of everything, right? Because we've been living the lives that we've been living, and we share what we share. But I think they know enough. And the fact of the matter is we invited them to be part of the process, or they're part of the process, because we trust in some of their judgment. Now, as I said before, at the end of the day, it is our choice and our decision to make, but it wouldn't behoove us or be kind of, I wouldn't say not honoring to them if we did not even consider what they were saying, because that was the purpose of them being there, right? So, so again, y'all heard it here from Deneia herself and MJ, and the magic of, and not purposeful for the show, but editing happens, and you don't get to see and experience everything. So I'm glad that you got to share that, and hopefully that clears the air for you all. So the other thing I didn't get to show on the show was these relationships that are formed, right? And so you and Trish are BFFs. Talk about their relationship with you and Trish, how the connection occurred. What is it that you love so much about her? And they are friends in real IRL. In real life now. And before I go further, I just want to take a pause and say Deneia has a birthday coming up. So I want y'all to all wish her a happy birthday. Aquarius season, right? It's coming up.
Yes.
Aquarius season. So talk to me about the relationships in the house, and specifically you and Trish, and any other relationships that you've created and formed since being on the show.
Okay. So what's funny is when we were quarantined at the hotel, Every I don't even know what you call them, COVID,
Oh yeah.
whatever, what they call them,
I don't know.
that
It's
would
like our
take us on the
COVID
walk.
escorts, but I don't know what the cousin.
Yes, our COVID stores. That would take us to the take us on the walks or take us to the pool. I swear, almost every one of them would say, "There's a mom that I know you're going to be close with." Every one of them. Every one of them. They're like, "There's a mom that she has the same energy as you. You know, she's so sweet. She's this, she's this, she's this." Almost every one of them. And on the flip side, they were telling Trish the same thing, but we didn't know it. But when I walked in the house and she gave me a hug, and I was like, I bet you this is her. We instantly connected. And I don't know if it's because my parents are from the South and I just love people from the South, but Trish is just a very genuine, open spirit. And I consider myself to be a genuine person. And so I match energies with those who are super genuine. I mean, if you meet anybody in my circle, like Kiki, if you come down and visit, everybody in my circle is very welcoming. I don't walk out of a situation with my friends and think that they was, you know, how some people say, oh, you know, I know they talk about me when I left and things like that. Like, I don't have any of those friends. All my friends are safe space. All my friends support me. And Trish just falls right on in. Like, they added her into a group text for my birthday celebration, and Trish is like, "Oh my God, I love your friends. I feel like I've known them for years." And so we just clicked. I mean, every moment, every instant, we just clicked. And it was just she was mom one, I was mom two, and I walked in, we met. It was just from that moment, and we would have conversations. And then after my first date with Philip, we literally laughed from after that date. I don't know, whatever time we went to bed to that morning. And Karen was like, "What are you guys laughing about? What are you guys talking
Who was
about?"
that? Who you said? Karen.
Karen, because you know it was the three
Right.
of us in the bunk beds initially, but we laughed that first night. We stayed like young kids. We stayed up all night and just talked and connected, even though we knew we had to get up super early the next morning. And it was that there. As far as everybody else on the show, I really talk to everybody. I always just send like text here and there, like, "Hey, just checking on you to see if you're okay." I sent everybody a text after the show, told them what I appreciated most about them. And just because everybody was so sweet, I just, you know, and I just felt like we were a family. I just always, and not that we're all going to talk forever. I still want to have some type of connection, because this experience for me was such an awesome experience. And, you know, I just still want to be connected with you all. So, you know, I just text everybody every now and again. So I talk to everybody, really.
He is definitely the connector. I almost feel like it's because of you that the group text exists. And I know that you're a connector. And as you said, you reach out to each individual person to always check in. So for that, I am appreciative, because I think I could probably gone off and just, like, you know, live my life, you know, as if this didn't happen. But how could you forget that this didn't happen? I mean, this is a life altering, life changing experience. And it was so many wonderful people and experiences that we shared. And it's something that we'll always have in common, right, for the rest of our life. Like, no one else could say that unless you did a reality show. But that's just such a small percentage of people that can say that they've actually been on a reality television show, right? Lived in a home with 9 other people day in and day out, and got to connect with them. So it's a very unique experience, one that I'll cherish for the rest of my life. So I'm grateful for
Absolutely.
that. What else? What else is there anything else that you want to insert or share that maybe I did not cover as I go and look at my notes? Because I want to make sure that I touched on all the things that I wanted to touch on as well.
Good question. Anything that I want the people to know that you did not cover? We covered a lot of it. I can't think. I mean, I do hate that, and you talked about this on your live. I do hate that they didn't show, because that was really one of my favorite moments on the show. Our moment when we played charades. Child, that thing, I'm so mad. I just knew they were going to put that in there. It was such a Black girl magic moment that I felt like needed to be experienced by the whole world.
It
I mean, I was so stressed out because I watch all kind of movies. So guys, we were playing charades, and they had to start to play charades, and so I was trying to think of movies that everybody knew, and so but I couldn't think of like either the title or whatever. So I just started to do. I would do one signal. I would do a heart. Kiki was on it. Love Jones. I did this. Color purple. I mean, I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna stop playing with them. I'm about to play with you. This is our game right now. Everything I did, Kiki captured it. Then Kiki got up off the couch and we gave each other that like. I mean, to me, that was like the best connection and moment. I mean, other than the rap between you and Grant.
Oh my gosh.
That was the best moment. I just love that moment. I knew that they were going to show it. So sad that they didn't. I wish we could just at least get the clip.
I would like HBO, Hello, ITV America, Warner Media, hit us with that clip, because I agree with Deneia. It was a special moment. And just to go back really quickly, when you talk about like, the Black girl magic moment, but there's something to be said about, when you are trying to find a music or a song that is kind of like universal, right? You're like, I'm here in this mixed race group. What can I say that is universal? And then we also know that we just have our own shared experiences, right? And so to be able to say, you know what, I'm just gonna lock in with you. We're gonna lock in because. Right. Why do I have to try to think that hard about anything? This is my experience, and I get to be able to honor the experiences that I have. And so I'm so grateful that we were able to do that. And sometimes I'll be like, I don't be remembering stuff like in terms of movies and stuff. So I was like, thank you, universe, for the download. Like, it was coming. I was like, yes. One after the other. So that was a very magical moment amongst so many others. I alluded to this in my life, being in the bed, having long talks, having the one long talk and the connection that we had. And so I'm just grateful to have been on this journey with you. My other question to you as we wrap is, what's next for Deneia?
Ooh, so many things. So we didn't talk about Hey Honey Listen, or so
talk about it.
The timer came back up. Sorry, I'm on my phone. Sorry, guys. So I am doing something with Trish. We are starting some type of women's movement. So I did something called Hey Honey Listen, which was just like I call it a motivational moment on social media. And that was one of the things that they always ask me about on the show. Like, what is Deneia's Daily Dose? What is Hey Honey Listen? And it was really just me living out what I did for myself as far as my daily affirmations and my self-development. And it was just me either taking a quote or coming up with a quote on my own and just talking about it. And so I am going to do that on another level. I am also working on doing my own little, I don't want to say little.
I love that you self-corrected that. Yes.
Working on, Trish and I are working on the podcast too, but I'm working on doing my own affirmations specifically for women. 5-minute affirmations that you listen to in the car, the bedtime affirmations, just so many different, things. So a whole little genre of that. And then whatever God has, I always say I am ready to walk the path that God has paved for me. So whatever God is paving for me, I am ready to walk it. I am going to walk it fearless and free. And so those are the things that I'm working on now. But, there's other things that, I'm thinking about, but I'm trying to hone in on this one movement first.
That sounds good. Hey, honey, listen first of all, I just love that. Hey, honey, listen, because that's what we be saying. Hey, honey, listen. Listen. I know that people are tuning in and they're like, she didn't ask her about whether she and Scott are together. So I'm going to ask because I know that that's what they want, but I already know what the answer is going to be. So I'm asking anyway. What is the status of you and Scott?
Well, we are hoping for a reunion. I talk to him daily. but I can't really reveal our status because we are hoping for a reunion. If we don't have one, we'll definitely share what's going on between
Yep.
us. But we are in constant communication. Can I say
You
that?
sure can.
We talk every day. Can I
Sure
say
can.
that? All right. Well, that's what I'm gonna let you guys know. We talk every day. We are in constant
Hmm.
communication. He is just as attentive as he was on the
Okay.
show, and we'll
We'll
leave it
leave it
there.
there. And if you want to know more in terms of the reunion, you can like tweet, social media, hashtag ITV America, at ITV America and at HBO,
Mm-hmm.
and ask them for a reunion, because I know many of you felt like you're left hanging. There's so much that
Yeah.
went on in the house, so much backstory, so much love and connection, at least with the children, and why they decided that they thought this would be great for their parents, as well as why we decided to do it for ourselves. And I think we want to continue to share those stories. But if that does not happen, you know that you can always come here over to Just Bloom, where I'm going to be able to have
Yes.
and share all of the backstories, but not just the backstory, the story that is their everyday life. So to create a platform and a reminder that no matter where you are in your life, what season you're in, it's never too late to have the life that you want, and it's never too late to just bloom.
Yes. Let's bloom. Let's bloom,
All
y'all.
right. With that being said, I thank you so very much, Deneia, for your openness, your honesty, your authenticity, the way you show up in the light that you are, and the way that you elevate spaces every time that you enter a room. So thank you so much.
Oh,
And
thank you so much, Kiki. I appreciate you.
until the next time, see ya.
Bye, everybody. Thank you,
Thank you.
Kiki. This was
Thank
great.
you. So,